I'm back.
Every time I walk out that door, every time I interact with anybody new, my purpose is to help change.
It's time to celebrate life. If you know that you're in charge of your life, it's time to stand up. If you know you want better for your life, it's time to stand up. If you know that you have what it takes to be in charge of your life, it's time to stand up. If you know that you are not just trying to be good for you, but for those around you, it's time to stand up. As a matter of fact, look to the person to your left and tell them you are enough.
I want to help you change, and just like you change, every time I interact with somebody, they help me change. It's no different than if I met an individual and they had 4 quarters and they needed change, or if I had $1 and they had 4 quarters, I need to change. We can swap the money. The value is still the same. They still got $1, I still got $1, but we both exchange something, and it was a change for both of us. So every time I walk out that door, I inspire to help change lives just as much as lives have changed me.
Y'all been listening to the wrong people, watching the wrong things all your life, and it's time to put to rest all those negative thoughts, because you are enough. It's time to put to rest that self-doubt, because you are enough. It is time to get rid of that negative energy, because you are enough. It is time to stop listening to people that don't have the best interests of you in your life, because you are enough. So let's have a moment of silence. I want everybody to understand that you are the person that's in charge of your life. Everything that you have inside of you to be who you're supposed to be in life. You have a destiny, and that destiny can only be accomplished through you, by you, and only you, with the help of God. When you realize that you are the person you are, because you're not a carbon copy, there's only one you. They try to put you in the box. Society tries to put you in the box, but you can't be in the box. How can you be in the box when there's only one you? But then they tell you, think outside the box. What I'm trying to get you to understand is there is no box.
I want to pass on the things that I have to the generations behind me. By the time it's time for me to get called home and go to the grave, I want to be empty. I believe in bankrupting the cemetery, so I can't take this knowledge with me, because the cemetery is already full of brilliant ideas and unwritten books and innovative ideas. I can't take this with me, so I'm trying to leave it all here as Billy Graham Jr. to the next generation so somebody else can carry it on.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What is going on, purpose-driven family? Man, have I missed y'all. And I must say, I've been a little under the weather things, but I just couldn't stop thinking, like, I got to get back to the family. We got to keep bringing these guests, because we keep having these amazing people that keep coming in, sharing their life with us, being so transparent and so open. And it was only right. I didn't care what was going on today. I was like, God, please make this happen, because we got to get back on. And when I say I'm happy, because today's guest was the right time. And I'm praying for God for help getting us on this show, bringing the people what they need. And we have somebody here that's coming right behind a powerhouse. I don't even know. I'm not going to do it. I was about to do it, but I don't even want to do Miss Pam any service. So I'm not even going to mess it up. I'm going to let her tell it from her mouth only, so you can see it and hear from yourself. So I have to bring to you the one, the only, the amazing Pastor Pam.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening.
How are you doing?
I am amazing. I am doing great. Thank you. I'm just counting it an honor and a privilege to be here tonight. Thank you so much for the invitation. It means much. It means much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, I got to say thank you too, because it takes a lot to even be able to separate somebody as busy as you, as hardworking as you. That's for the people to be able to take the time to step away and just grace us with your presence, dropping knowledge on us tonight. So we have to say thank you to you as well, because it is an honor for you to be on the show. Because man, I'm not even gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I was about to do it, but no. Before I even go any further, can you tell all the viewers, all the purpose-driven family out there, who is Pastor Pam?
Okay, I will attempt to do that. My name is Pastor Pamela Jones. I reside in Minot, North Dakota. Let me tell you about me. I'm a wife. I've been married for 42 years to a wonderful man. I'm a mother of three children. I'm a grandmother and a great grandmother. I'm an entrepreneur, a creator. I'm a creator. I'm created in my father's image and after his likeness. So when I learned how to embrace that, I began to understand that I am a creator. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business owner. I have been a business owner since um, about 1980, I would say. I've been a business owner, have owned several business. I am a pastor, and I have a uh, Facebook morning devotional every morning, Monday through Friday. I'm the founder of the Winning Combination, the founder of Availing Prayer with Pastor Pam, and I am the pastor of Greater Faith Ministries Incorporated. My husband Isaiah Jones is the founder, and I'm the senior pastor over that ministry. And so that's my life. That's my life.
You said that's your life. Like that was just a little glimpse or a little piece. Like that is a lot to juggle at once. And you said some things. Then, and I'm sorry, I have to ask the questions because they just come in. And with the society that we live in today, one of the first
Mhm.
things that you led with, besides God, because we know that's the leading force. One thing that you said was you've been married over 40 years.
Yes.
First, I have to say congratulations on that. But
Thank
I
you.
have to ask because so many of us out there, you hear it on a daily basis. We hear so many conversations about relationships and everything of that nature. Can you express to us, because that means we're going back, how does someone find the person that is meant to be with them, the person that is their person, and stay with them for 40 years? How does that happen?
Well, it God ordained. I have to tell you my story, and I'm going to give you the short version of my story. I'm a teenage mother. I found myself at the age of 14 pregnant at 14. I became a mother at 15, and I'm 65 years old. During the time that I became a teenage mother, it wasn't the thing to do, if you understand what I mean. Our society has, moved forward, and it's not such a big thing anymore. We don't make such a big deal out of it. But when I became pregnant, you get shunned, just shamed, and all of this. So here I am, 14 pregnant, 15 a mom, and moving forward. Just went through a lot of things, but I met my husband at work. My husband is from Miami, Florida, originally, born and bred Miami boy. I'm from the Eastern Shore of Maryland, born on little country town, Eastern Shore of Maryland. But my husband it's a resort town, and my husband came there to work. And the first year he came there to work, we did seasonal work. He came there to work. He left and went back home. Little did I know, we worked together. We were co-workers, kind of friends, but just worked together. I did not know that he had his eye on me. He went home and told his mom and dad that he was coming back the next year because the girl he was going to marry was there. Ironically, everybody we worked with knew he liked me except for me. So and I actually had a boyfriend at a time. I had a long term boyfriend, but when he came back the next year, me and the boyfriend were over. It was over. And so when he came back to work, we were still working at the same job. He came back to work. Everybody told him, "Oh, she don't have a boyfriend anymore." But we became friends. We really became friends. And then we just started hanging out together. went to party together. I actually threw him a party, and then we just went from friends to being an item. And what I thought was going to be a summer turned into 42 years. And so it's the best thing ever happened to me. He's really my knight in shining armor. He's my prince, everything I needed him to be. The thing about it, he loved me, and when I didn't know how to love me. And we don't
Ooh,
have enough time to tell you about that. But he loved me when I did not know how to love me. I didn't even know really what love was. But my husband loved me enough to, and he married me, and it's been a ride, and it's been a good ride. I would not change the journey for anything. We've built our life on that love, honor, respect for one another, and commitment to our vows. We committed to be married, and we didn't let anybody come in between that. What God has joined together, let no man put asunder. We lived that, and 42 years here we are, raised our children. And if I had time, I could tell you the whole story, but I've just condensed the story, and it's an amazing love story, and with God right in the center of it.
wow. First off, again, 42 years, congrats. Especially, man, I can't even let it pass up because you said so much stuff that I want everybody to catch. Because there's people out there that want to be in relationships or having relationship issues, and you said a couple things. First, he loved you. And
Yes,
I want people to understand that because I grew up on that thing, that saying of a man that finds a wife finds a good thing. And you
yes.
see, this man, he did not give up. He came back. When I say when a man wants you, he will move mountains to get to you. He came
Oh,
from
yes,
a whole nother state.
yes,
He didn't even live in the state. He came back.
yes.
It had nothing to do with what happened in your past, your present.
No,
Everybody knew that he wanted you, but you.
yes,
And then you said another big key that you said, because I tell people all the time, I watch it, people, relationships are more than just love. Yeah, it's like when you meet somebody, it's that first thing that initially attracts you to that
yes,
person. But what's that thing that's gonna keep you and make you want to invest and grow with that person? And Pastor Pam said it best. It was more than just love. Love gets you in the door. But what
amen.
happens after that? And she said
Yes,
respect, honor, commitment, and most of all, they have God as number one in their marriage. In the marriage, I tell you, it's not two, it's always three. It's the husband, the wife, and God holding it all together. And Pastor Pat, so many people are missing that nowadays. Now, granted, I
yes,
want everybody to understand what we're saying here because I'm one of those individuals. I grew up in a Baptist family. We're Christian. God is who we know. That's who we believe. But I want
yes,
everybody to understand I'm very open to this. I'm open to various religions for the simple fact that everybody comes from a bit different background, different walk. Whoever your higher being is, understand you have your own principles. But I just wanted to put that out there because Pastor Pam, you that was the one thing because we're not finna skip none of this today. Because you
praise
said when you went back when you got pregnant at 14, had a
God.
baby at 15, that was not the thing. That was the anomaly. But everything about your life is the anomaly. It's not very many people
Yes,
that have been married 40 some years. You said you've been an entrepreneur since the 80s. Like entrepreneurship is just a new thing. Like, don't get me wrong, there's been entrepreneurs for years, but that's like the new
yes,
push now over like the last
yes,
decade or so. So now I have to ask, how, because you and your husband started out, you started building, you're working in a resort town. How do you go
yes,
from that and transition into becoming an entrepreneur in the 80s, not just as a mother, but as a wife, and then starting something that wasn't even the hot trend back then?
yes. Well, and that's all part of my story. I was a teenage mother. So by this time, I'm married, and my husband and I both are working. My husband worked days, and I worked in the healthcare field, and I worked the evening shift. But by this time, we both had given our life to Christ. We were in church, we were in ministry, and I learned how to pray. I learned how to pray. And so I I have always been a person that would ask questions. So I asked God a lot of questions. I wasn't afraid to ask God a lot of questions. And so I found out that not only was I a teenage mother, my mother was a teenage mother, and her mother was a teenage mother. So this was something that was happening in my family. And so I went to God, and I did not want my daughter to be a teenage mother. I did not want, I wanted her to value herself, to love herself, and to keep herself for her husband. And so I went to God and asked God, started praying to God about breaking generational curses. I had never heard that before, but I happened to be listening to a lady on TV, a minister, a TV evangelist on TV, and she was teaching on generational curses one day. And I stopped what I was doing and I sat on the bed and I listened to her. And immediately after listening to her, I went to God in prayer. And I began to say, God, I want this thing broken in my family. I don't want my daughter to be 14 and pregnant. And how do I do this? And I had a good job, I had a state job, good benefits, making decent money, everything. And the Lord said, open the daycare, open a daycare. I said, open a daycare. He said, yes, open a daycare. Quit your job and open a daycare. So I'm hearing God, and by now I'm not learning the voice of God, but I keep working. And God sent the prophet to my door. Literally, He sent the prophet, a man of God that I knew. He sent him to my door. And when I got to the door, answered the door, he said, he said, the Lord said, He said, I came to ask you, God wants to know, when are you going to start? When are you going to do what He said for you to do? And from that moment, I started asking questions about how to open a daycare. And so that's how I started in business. I went to someone that was a daycare owner, and she had a big daycare. She had the biggest daycare in the city that I lived in, and she would not help me. But somebody that
Wow.
didn't even like me made no bones about that she didn't like me. But she paid
Wow.
for me to take the class that I needed to take and paid for me to get the license that I needed to get and told me all the information I needed to know in order to open a daycare. And I
Wow.
started daycare, and that was my very first business. I started daycare in my home, and God caused it to prosper. Um, People were saying they weren't making any money, and I didn't tell that lie. I said, I can't lie on my God. I'm making money, more money than I've ever made in my life. And I had a wait list. I had a wait list for kids to come to my home. And that's how I started in business. It was really God ordained. And my daughter is now 40 something years old. She's married, has 4 kids, but she did not have a baby until she was 37 years old, y'all.
Ooh. Ooh.
God
I don't.
will do it.
So I don't think everybody. I want to make sure everybody grasps what you just said, because you said you one of those people. I'm the same way. I ask a lot of questions, and you're like, I gotta ask this question. So I want people to understand the thin line, because we hear so much about questioning God, and we shouldn't do it.
Yes,
It's a difference between asking God questions to get clarity versus questioning God's method of how He's trying to move you forward. I want you to understand what I'm saying again.
amen.
You can talk to God and ask questions, because we all need clarity. We all want understanding. We all want to go in the direction that
Yes,
He wants us to go. But it's the difference when you question the methods that He used. And I'm laughing at myself because my wife also in home daycare, worked in daycares, opened her own daycare business. Was It's just successful. Like, had the same wait list. People are calling like, how do I get in? How do I get in? I love what you're doing. Like,
yes,
I want to stop there for a second, because somebody out there is either in your situation right now, or talking and having similar conversations with God, or even looking at, I want to open a daycare. God is telling me to open a daycare. Can you break down just for somebody that's trying to start out or go that path? What does it take? Because you said a young lady that didn't even like you did
Yes,
all
I
these things to help put you into place, because regardless of how you do it, you can't stop God from doing what God wants to be done.
no, you cannot.
For somebody that's out there watching right now, what would they need, or what does it take for them to get involved with daycare?
The first thing they should start is, if that's where they really know that that's their purpose and what God has called them to do. Now you do your research. Call your state. Call your state social work program, social services program. If you start there and ask them about becoming a licensed daycare, what do you need to do to become a licensed daycare? What materials do you need to have? What classes do you need? Do you need to take any classes to be able to get licensed? And once you start there, someone will walk you through the process at the social service level, because daycare is always needed. And so, if that's where your call is, and you know that's the purpose that God has called you to, start there. Just start asking questions. Go to social services. Call social services and say, I need information on how to become a licensed daycare. If you don't call the right department, they will put you in contact with who you need to be in contact with, and start there and just start the process. And it's, in most places, it's easier than you think. It's really easier than you think. I started daycare. I lived in a small 2 bedroom house. I had cribs in my living room. My living room was the daycare. I had cribs and playpens and all of that in my living room, and God just kept building upon that. And after my husband and I were called into ministry, we left Delaware, because at that time we were living in the state of Delaware. We left Delaware and moved back to Florida to start ministry in Florida. And so I stopped doing daycare at that point. When I got back to Florida, I stopped doing daycare at that point, and I went back into the workforce for a while. After years of that, what we thought we were going to be retiring, my husband and I, we thought we were going to retire. We bought a house. We bought a house in Georgia. And so we moved from Miami to Georgia. But let me back up. After I got to Miami, and I didn't do daycare anymore, and I went in the workforce, but I still had that entrepreneur, creative person in me. I taught myself to sew. From the age of 14, when I started going to school, and back in my day, we took home economics. Y'all don't know nothing about that, but we took home ec. You had to learn how to sew. You had to learn how to cook. And when I sat to the sewing machine for the first time, it literally called my name. I knew I had to sew. So, you make your little stuff that you make at home at. But I asked my mother for a sewing machine that year for Christmas. I asked her for a sewing machine for Christmas. And she gave it to me for Christmas. And from that point on, I taught myself to sew. I sewed my prom gowns. That was the very first major thing that I made, was my one of a kind, nobody had it, prom gown I wore to my senior prom. And so I just love seeing how taking nothing and bring it together, and it turned out to be something. That's just me. And so when I got to Miami, back in I'm gonna say in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, Victoria's Secret was the rage. I think they were just coming out. It was a rage. Well, I don't look like Victoria or her secret. So I said, they forget about us. We big girls, but we
Yes.
like to look sexy too. I got a husband. I want to look good.
Yes.
And so went to God. I said, God, I said, somebody knows how to do this. They make them in factories. how do I learn how to do this? My neighbor lived across the street from me. I saw her, never talked to her. But one day I went to the fabric store and she was in the fabric store. And so I said to her, I said, "Oh, I'm your neighbor." She said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "Oh, you sew?" She said, "Yes." And that's how we started a conversation. And I said, "Oh, I could sew, but I have a problem uh sizing patterns." And she said, "Oh, I could show you how to do that." And I said, "Oh, for real?" She said, "Yes." So that's how her and I got connected. And so then I said to her, I said, "I really want to learn how to make lingerie." She said, "Girl, I could teach you that." I started a lingerie business. We started making bras, thongs, G string. Yes, Pastor Pam. We, Victoria's Secret didn't have anything on us.
Oh,
That started my business. My daughter at the time, she worked for one of the major credit card companies. She worked in their call center. Every day, my daughter took a rolling suitcase to work with her, and she was selling my lingerie at her desk. I couldn't make it fast enough. I could. I knew that I couldn't make it fast enough. I knew that we were doing something. We met a young lady and she weighed 600 pounds and she wanted to go to the beach. Somebody she knew was having a beach party. And she said, "I can't find a swimsuit." And we said, "We'll make you one." And we made her a swimsuit that fit and she looked good and she went to the beach. So I did that. I started a lingerie line, kept going, did that for a while. And then we moved to Georgia. We left Miami where we thought now we're going to retire. So we just going to live this retired life and got to Georgia. And my daughter came here to North Dakota. And then she called me and said, my daughter has an amazing story how we even got to North Dakota. It's, I'm telling you all, when God has a purpose for your life, and you start walking in his direction, and you may not understand it all, but if you just let him lead and you say, "Where you go, I'll follow you, God. If you just lead me, I'll follow." My daughter came to Georgia. It was the first recession. She came to Georgia, no job, couldn't find a job, couldn't buy a job, couldn't get a job nowhere. And my daughter is college girl, couldn't get a job nowhere. And she was frustrated. Here she is, 30 years, some years old, living at home with her mom and dad. She's upset because she's an independent young lady. And I kept encouraging her, "God's got something for you. Just wait on God, wait on God." And she would be upset and frustrated. And I just kept saying, "God's gonna do it. God's gonna do it." I was watching the evening news one night, and I saw Dan Rather telling the story about North Dakota and the oil boom. And so
okay.
one day her and I was talking, and I would just joking with her. I said, "I know where you could get a job." I said, "North Dakota." She looked at me crazy. But it was a few weeks after that, somebody else played the news, and she was watching the news, and she
Okay.
saw the story. But before that, in the process of it, she had went to God in prayer. And she said, "God, I don't care where you send me. Just I need a job." And then she gave God her list. She said, "God, I want a job that they'll pay me to move there. They'll give me a sign on bonus. I need to make X number of dollars." She just had it. She told God everything that she wanted. And when she seen the news about North Dakota, she called a staffing agency. Some lady way in Texas. I don't think she ever seen the lady face to face. And the lady connected her with the job at the medical. place here in Minot, North Dakota. And we moved her in the middle of February. Never been so cold in my life. Moved her in February to Minot, North Dakota. I said, we're not coming to North Dakota. We come visit you, but we ain't coming to North Dakota. A few months later, her phone rang. This not only did she move to North Dakota, her now husband, which was her boyfriend at the time, I kept asking her. I said, "Where you gonna tell you Evans? Where you gonna tell him?" She said, "I don't know where. I don't know. I'm going to North Dakota." When she told him, he said, "I'm going to North Dakota too. You ain't leaving me." So we moved them here a few months later. She called me and she said, "Mom, I'm having a baby." I said, "Oh, here we go. Please come to North Dakota. Please, Mom. I need you. Come to North Dakota." So that's how we got to North Dakota. I hadn't did daycare in years and years. She called me. She said, "Mom, they need daycare so bad out here." She said, "Please come." Her coworkers were waiting for me to get here to open daycare. They were asking her every day, "When's your mom coming? When's she coming?" And so I came here and I opened daycare again. Did daycare for several years here. And God said, close the daycare. Not only did we open a daycare here, my husband opened a restaurant. My husband's been a chef for 40 years. He opened a restaurant. Due to his health issues, he had to close his restaurant. But I'm still having the daycare. It's thriving. And God said to me, my husband closed the restaurant in August. The Lord said, close the daycare and you're going to close it December the 28th. And I'm saying, and how we gonna live and what we gonna do, and God, you know, this is how we this is the money that we have. But I'm a living witness. When God has a plan and a purpose, you won't miss a beat if you obey. And he took me from that, and we closed daycare, closed the restaurant, never missed a beat. And I came home and I said, "What now, God? What am I doing now? What am I doing?" So in the meantime, I was going through menopause and I was having a problem with my hair. And my hair has always been my glory. Can do any. I've already always had good, strong hair, but for some reason my hair wasn't doing right. I was getting distraught, and I asked God what to do, and I started making my home products. I started watching YouTube, and I seen these ladies out here making stuff, and I heard about Carol's daughter. And I knew an older lady from years ago that already passed away, that she used to make some stuff for our hair when we were little girls. And so I started making some hair products for myself. And I started doing that, and it worked. And I just, from there, and that's what I do currently. I make all natural hair products. I make all natural bath and beauty products, and um, that's who I am. And God would just take me from one place, from one thing to the next. But in all of it, he taught me how to pray. I learned to have relationship with him, and that is a result of me praying. Not that I had an easy road. It was not easy. I've had trials, I've had tests, I've been frustrated, I've cried, I felt like giving up. I walked away and said, I can't, and then come back. And the Lord said, "Get up tomorrow, and yes, you can." I did a conference called the I Can Conference a couple of years ago, and people, first I had to get the concept that yes, I can do it,
Yes.
and so all of these things that um, it's only because of the relationship that I have with God, and that I allow Him, and I do it scared because I don't know how to do it. I never made a bra in my life. And God showed me how to do it. He sent somebody to teach me how to do it. Then he showed me where to buy the components and all of the, I had never did that. I said, Fruit of the Loom makes underwear. How come I can't?
Why not?
Why can't I? So I said, L'Oreal, they have their products on the shelf. How come? Why can't I? I'm
Why
no
can't
different than I. Why can't I? So that's what I started. I came here and I started making bath and beauty products. And I heard Mr. Ernest Usher a few months back because I made stuff for my family, giving stuff away. And one day he got on Facebook and he said, "How long you gonna keep giving your stuff away?" And I did like this and I almost fell on the floor because he was talking to me. He was real, and he didn't know. And I met Ernest through him being here in Minot. We connected, but I had no idea about the marketing and all that. And I had been asking God. I had been praying and asking God for help. I had sincerely asked God, how do I take this? In the meantime, I started the availing prayer. God spoke to me in 2018 before the pandemic. And I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry. God spoke to me.
Oh no. Your story is powerful. We need it.
He spoke to me in 2018 and said, I need you to go on the internet. I'm like, on the internet? He just didn't say internet. He said Facebook. I need you to do ministry on Facebook. I was like, Facebook? God, do you know how much foolishness on Facebook? And he has a conversation with me like this. He said, yeah, I know how much foolishness on there. He said, but you're going to be on there. And so, me being me, I start asking everybody, well, what do you think about Facebook? What do you think about the internet and ministry on the internet? And I'm steady having a conversation with God. Nobody knows me. I'm not Pastor T.D. Jakes. I'm not Joyce Meyer. I'm not Dr. Juanita Bynum. I'm not none of these people. Who gonna listen to me? Nobody don't know who I am. And I'm really, I'm me. So God said I should go on the internet. And I kept pushing back, but he would not let me rest. He would wake me up in the middle of the night and say, when you gonna start? Go on the internet. Gave me the name, Availing Prayer. Availing Prayer. Gave me the scripture. And so I connected with someone else that spoke a word into my life and said, God is calling you to this. And this was before the pandemic. Isn't it amazing the God we serve?
Yes.
And then here comes 2020, and everybody has to go to the internet.
Yeah.
Everybody has to go to every church have to do some form of virtual ministry. And God kept talking, and that's how I started um, the virtual, doing Facebook Live every morning. Started coming on doing Facebook Live, and I asked God. I said, "What I'm gonna say?" He said, "You're gonna preach. You're gonna talk. That's what you're gonna do. That's what you do every day, and what you do every Sunday. That's what you're gonna do." I said, "Suppose nobody don't come on." He said, "Somebody go on, and if they don't, you just preach. You just do what I tell you to do." And so and that's how I started. I started with availing, and started tuning in, and people just started following. And somebody said to me one day, say, you got 100 people following you. 100. I think it was my daughter. I said, how you know somebody following you? I didn't even know somebody following you. And my kids laugh at me. They say, for real. And so I just kept progressing. And then I was doing a live one morning, and the Lord said, I need you to do a virtual conference. And He always tells me to do something that I never had any idea about what I'm doing. I said, I've never done a conference, let alone a virtual conference. And He said, I need you to do the I Can conference. And I just began to say, yes, Lord. So I did a virtual conference. It was called the I Can. Then he said, I need you to write a journal. He said, I need you to put together a journal. I ain't never written nothing a day in my life except for notes. And he said, yes, you're going to do a journal. So I did the journal. And then one day I was during the live. And again, the Lord spoke, and I gave three keys. I said this, this, and this. I can't even remember what it was, but it stuck with me. And when I got off the live and I was talking to my husband, and he said, "You just gave the winning combination." And that's where we are. And so
Wow.
I said, okay, the winning combination. And so after the pandemic, 2020, we were all sheltered in, we were all shut in. And after 2020, and last year, my husband and I, we closed the doors to our church. That was very hard for me because I've been in ministry a long time, physical church. And the Lord said, close the doors. And I had to struggle with. I felt like a failure as a pastor because here we are. You start a ministry, and now God says close the doors. And even though I know it was God saying close the door, we went on vacation for a month, and the whole month we were gone, God was dealing with me about it. And I came home, and even though you're a leader and you're a pastor, you're not beyond um, your own self. And so when I came home and I heard God say, close the doors, and I came home and I didn't close the doors until the end of the year. And people started leaving, and I couldn't figure out why. And God said, because I told you to close the doors, I released you. God actually said those words to me on vacation. He said, I release you. And now I need you to shift it to the next phase. And sometimes when God is shifting us, and then we become accustomed for something to in something for so long, and we allow that thing to identify us, that becomes our identity. And I had done that, and God said, "No, I need you to shift, and you will go virtual, and that's what you will do virtually." And so I started, and He said, "Just said the winning combination, and you would do it this, this, and this." And I said, "Okay, God, need help." He said, a young lady that my husband actually grew up with from school, and I hadn't seen her in years, but she hadn't seen me in years. I hadn't seen her in years. She started following me on the winning combination. And then when I asked God for help, He spoke her name to me. He said, "That's your help." And now she does 2 days for me on the winning combination. I'm telling you, God is amazing. So that's my life. That's what I do, and I'm just looking forward now to see what God is doing in the next phase of my life. And I'm 65. I'm going to be 65 November the 24th. And I've had people say, "Oh, you need to slow down. You're doing too much. You do too much. You need to quit. You need to slow down." I don't have no slow down. I'm just getting started. And I
Yes.
said, when I read my Bible and I see the patriots of old and Abraham and Moses, they were much older than me. And so I told the Lord,
Yep.
I want to leave here empty. I'm leaving a legacy. I may not have millions of dollars to leave my family and all of that stuff, but I want to leave them the legacy that you can do anything that you want to do if you include God and you allow God to order your steps. He will blow your mind. It's amazing what He will do. Right now, with my bath and body products, somebody has reached out to me and asked me to purchase my products wholesale. I mean, I'm still making products in my house at my dining room table. My husband don't even know the last time. Sometimes he eat table at dinner at the table because all he see is body butter and sugar scrub. And but I'm just amazed at what God is doing in my life. And I've asked Him for 100 years. I've asked Him literally for 100 years. And so I'm going to be still going strong. I hope at 100 years, at least have my sound mind. But I'm leaving a legacy. I want to leave a legacy to not only my family, but people that God bring into my life that you can. And you get up every day and you win. We're winning. I'm
We're winning.
winning. I'm winning with this girl that they say wasn't going to be anything. This girl that was 14 and pregnant. This girl that never went to college. Woo! I'm winning. This girl that a man that married me with with children already, and we built a life, and now we have a family and a strong family, and we have generations. I, that it's not. This wasn't supposed to be my story. And people told my husband not to marry me. Oh, don't marry her. No, you better not marry that one. So, yeah, yes, that's and so now I'm working on a new project as well. It's called Agent with Grace. That's my latest project. It's called Agent with Grace. And I'm gonna prayerfully take people on the journey with me as I'm aging with grace. I want to share my story, all of my story, and show people that even in the hard times, from 14 and before then, God had his hand on my life. I didn't tell this part of my story. My grandfather was a pastor, my grandfather was a preacher. And when
Okay.
we were little, my brother that's now passed on, he went to be with the Lord at a young age. But I'm the oldest of my mother's five children. And then my brother that was next to me. And my grandfather used to carry us to church every Sunday and set us in the pulpit while he preached. I sat on one side and my brother sat on the other because he didn't have an associate pastor, I'm assuming. I don't know. But I know it was God ordained. And by all rights, women were preachers.
No.
But somehow the lot fell on me. And for years, I've been down through the denominations that say women don't preach and all of that. And people would constantly say to me, "Girl, I don't care what they tell you. You a preacher. You're a preacher, girl." And I would be crying before God and all and when I finally accepted that call in my life, and I asked God to just do whatever He would do with me. Have your way, whatever you do with me. But I've been ordained from since birth, and I just not me. I'm not bragging, I'm not boasting, but I just
No.
want the audience to understand that God has a plan. And sometimes, even in the worst part of your life, He's still working the plan. He's
Yeah.
still working the plan. He was working the plan when I was in the juke joint with my husband. He was working the plan, y'all, when I had the hot pants on and the go-go boots. He was working the plan. I didn't know he was working. Y'all hear me? I'm getting excited now. I'm getting excited. But I want people on the journey with me that every area of my life I see the grace of God, and I am aging with His grace. And so I wanted that's my latest project to be it. I want it to be a lifestyle and a beauty brand, a lifestyle and beauty brand, facial products, all natural facial products for women of color, because we're so undervalued and we're so underrated and undervalued. I even struggle with that because when I'm thinking about um, taking my stuff to the marketplace. Because I told the Lord, I said, I'm going to be in somebody's store. I don't know what store you got, but I'm going to be in somebody's store if they got a bill store for me. So I even struggle with that because I said, God, I don't want to feel like that I'm just saying, for women of color. And God said to me, why not?
Why not?
Why not? And so I
You
had to
can.
embrace that yes, my products are for women of color, and I don't have to apologize for that. And so, because we say crack don't black don't crack, so I want to show you how you keep your black from crack with natural products. And so that's my latest project. So yeah.
Man. Now, we've had our share of guests, and I want to share this with you. So this is episode number 40 of Strategic Dope. That's a milestone to me because just number 40. I'm 41. Call it what you want. But you are the first person, because your story is powerful. But you just gave us from the very beginning to where you currently are. And you are the epitome of what this show is about, purpose driven. You have a purpose. We all have a purpose. We're driven by that purpose. Some of us get our blinders on and we're so driven by our wants, our passions. People confuse that. They're driven by their passion versus the purpose that they're here for. You have broken the barriers, you've broken down the stigmas, like you said. That wasn't supposed to be your story. This was supposed to be your story. It wasn't the story that people had for you. See, many of us
Amen.
get caught up thinking we have to live the life according to what others say instead of writing our own story. We're the author of our story. We have the pen. That story's not over until we put that pen down. And you just proved that from the age 14 up until now. You have your husband, y'all. I told y'all, a man will come wherever you need. You see, her daughter at the age of 37, her man came from another state to Minot, North Dakota. I'm telling you right now, the weather in Minot, North Dakota is very disrespectful. That did not stop him. He was coming for
Woo.
his woman. You started in daycare. I swear, if I had my wife sitting on this camera, I think you're her person because y'all mimic. Like my wife started in daycare. She worked in daycare, had our first in-home daycare when we were in South Carolina, then moved it to Louisiana, and then when we went to Italy, they weren't allowed to have businesses. So what did she do? She still stayed in the school system, but what did she do? She picked up sewing. She started making all kinds of clothes and started doing different hair products. I promise you, like my wife was mirroring exactly what you were doing, and I'm sitting there looking as you're saying, like, because she's chimed in a couple of times, and I'm like, wow, this sounds familiar. All the way up until right now, I didn't know I was retiring for the military, but that chapter closed. My wife had the daycare successful, and it was like, it's time for the next phase. We need to move on. What are
Yeah.
we gonna do? I have no clue. Like what you and your husband have been doing from when your husband wasn't ready to shut down a restaurant. You thought you were done with daycare, and you moved on and started doing what? Making the next Victoria's Secret. Because, like you say, us our black women ain't no secret. Ain't nothing secretive about our black women. And you started doing something you had no idea of how to do. But everything you've done served the purpose, which was what? Helping others. That's what a
Yes.
difference. People get leaders confused. You are a servant leader. You're doing
Amen.
everything to help serve others without thinking about the benefit of what it's going to do to you, how it's going to affect you, because God has given you the divine purpose of helping others that need help, that don't know how to help themselves. That is your
Yeah.
purpose, and you've been doing it. That's what you said. It. You wasn't going to Minot, North Dakota. Where did you end up at? Minot, North
Why
Dakota,
not
because
North
the people
Dakota?
needed Pastor Pam in Minot, North Dakota.
And
No
so
matter where
many
you go.
people, so many women came into my life here, just here in Minot. I've had so many people come into my life, and it was a result of me doing daycare. And so I was able to not only care for their children, but God gave me the opportunity to pour into them and to help them and to tell them you can do whatever you want to do. And even
Yes.
as children were coming into my daycare, and everything I do, I try to put God in the center. So I would tell my parents, I pray, I believe in prayer. If you have a problem with that, this may not be the daycare for you. And so when my children would come to the daycare, we had to say grace over our food. And when they laid down for take a nap, we had to say prayer. It got so that parents would come back to the daycare and they say, Miss Pam, we can't eat dinner at our house until we say grace. I'm talking about kids 3, 4 years old going home and saying, we got to pray over our food. We have to thank God because daddy was able to go to work and put food on our table. When they would not lay down and take their nap until I went to each one of my individual classrooms and prayed with them. We have to have a prayer before they lay down and take a nap. And we prayed over their mom and dad while their mom and dad was at work, their brothers and sisters while they were at school. So even in that, God just amazed me how he allowed me to have an impact in other people's life, and young women, single women that were single mothers and they're struggling to raise their children, and they come into the daycare, and I'm able to pour into them and help them in some of the struggles that they're going through. That's only God can do that. And even when
Yes.
I was, asking God a lot of questions and saying, I don't understand what you're doing, and I don't grasp it all. But just because I was determined to, I have a friend, her and I, we've been prayer partners. Oh my goodness, I think like 15 years. We started on a prayer line together with a lot of other ladies, and everybody else went on vacation one July, and they never came back to the prayer line. And her and I kept praying. We kept praying. And I think about 4 or 5 years into the prayer, we started talking about purpose. We started asking God to show us what purpose is. How do we walk in the purpose that He's ordained for our life? We know you have a plan for us, God. What does that look like? How do we navigate through it? How do we allow you to order our steps? What do we know what we're supposed to be doing in the next phase of our life? Because we're steady progressing and we're changing and we're developing. I'm not the woman that I was 3 years ago, but in 2 years, I don't expect to be the woman that I am now. I should be evolving and becoming greater and bigger because I serve a great, big God, and he just takes us from one level to the next, from glory to glory to glory. And I'm looking forward to that. So I want to say to your audience, if you don't know what your purpose is, go to God. Don't be afraid to ask him questions. Ask him questions. He can handle whatever question you got. He can handle it. And then he will begin to speak into your life. And whatever he leads you, just follow his lead. Trust him enough to follow the lead. And sometimes you got to follow with one eye open and say, "We sure about this, Lord." And sometimes you just got, whoo, but just follow his lead. And it's going to be an amazing journey. It's going to be an amazing journey.
Pa- Pastor Pam, I have to ask because you got such an inspiring story and you've given us so much nuggets. For one, you were talking about breaking the generational curses in your family. You have not just your family, but you've broken and set new generations up for other people's families just from the work that you've done. And I know you're going to continue to do this amazing work. But I want to know, the people want to know, how can they continue to get in touch with Pastor Pam? Like, what are ways that they can stay in touch with you so they can continue to change their generations as well?
Well, you can follow me every morning on Facebook. I'm on Facebook Live, 7 a.m. Central Time, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. You can join the group. It's the Winning Combination, just like that, the Winning Combination with Pastor Pam. You can also follow me on Instagram, the Winning Combination 2022. You can follow me on our YouTube channel, The Winning Combination. And you also can reach out to me through our website, and that's www.thewinningcombination.online. Not on, and also there you can purchase our apparel. I forgot to even talk about that. Our winning apparel. I have T-shirts and all kind of stuff, household items that you can purchase. So you can follow us there. And if you would like to reach out to me personally, you can do so through my emails. My emails are the winning combination 516 at gmail.com, and also availing prayer, all one word, availing prayer at yahoo.com.
Man, I want everybody to know I will be getting all of that information put into the description of the channel. Pastor Pam, I don't know if nobody's told you. I have to tell you because it's amazing, just everything that you're doing. And I want to be one of those individuals that says thank you, and along with everybody else on Purpose Driven, give you your flowers while you're here, because the work that you are doing for the people, the purpose that you're living, it is truly amazing, and it's touching, and it's changing the lives of not just you and your family, but the lives of everybody that you come into contact with. And we thank you, man. Amazing. And I also have to thank you again for coming on the show, because man, we needed that today. If we didn't need anything else, we needed to hear Pastor Pam today. So we want to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you again for having me. It's an honor and a privilege. I always say we win every day. We win with praise. We win with the Word of God, and we win with prayer. That's the winning combination, y'all. It works. It's worked for me for over 30 something years. It will not fail you. If you just praise, get into the word of God, and if you just learn how to pray, you gonna win. Every day, all day, you gonna win. Even when it looks like you losing, you winning.
Man. Now, ooh, Lord, amen, amen. Now, Pastor Pam, I don't want you to go nowhere because I still have something I want to talk to you about after the show. But I want to let the viewers know, everybody know, that we will definitely be seeing Pastor Pam again. This is not going to be the last time. We have to have her back on because, for one, I want to know what's going to happen coming up in the future because amazing things are coming your way. The blessings are already pouring down upon you. And we definitely going to want to hear about them in the future. So we definitely going to want you to come back. But again, don't go nowhere. And again,
Amen.
I thank you for coming on because we really are truly blessed by having you in our presence today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
But don't go anywhere. I will talk to you in a minute. But until
Okay.
we're going to see each other again, don't worry about it. Everybody, we will be bringing her back on. Pastor Pam, I want you to have a blessed night. Thank you again. And we will see you on the other side, man.
All righty.
Man, I don't know if you feel like I feel, but I know right about now after listening to Pastor Pam, I know that I can. And if you don't know that you can, you need to go back and rewatch this episode again because she is the true epitome of what it's like of living in your purpose. Having a purpose in life, we all have one. It's just the question of, are you living your purpose? And if you're not, if you're having any questions, if you have any doubt and you think you can't, just remember what Pastor Pam said, that you can. And man, again, I want to thank everybody that tuned in tonight. It was amazing seeing you all. We missed you all. We're going to have another amazing guest next week. Just remember to tune in every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Cannot wait to see you all again next week. And remember, you can, just like Pastor Pam said, you can live in your purpose. And the way that you did that is you make sure you remember that I can live in my purpose, with purpose, on purpose. Remember that mission. Until next time, I'll see y'all next week. Love you.
I'm back.
Every time I walk out that door, every time I interact with anybody new, my purpose is to help change.
It's time to celebrate life. If you know that you're in charge of your life, it's time to stand up. If you know you want better for your life, it's time to stand up. If you know that you have what it takes to be in charge of your life, it's time to stand up. If you know that you are not just trying to be good for you, but for those around you, it's time to stand up. As a matter of fact, look to the person to your left and tell them you are enough.
I want to help you change, and just like you change, every time I interact with somebody, they help me change. It's no different than if I met an individual and they had 4 quarters and they need to change, or if I had $1 and they had 4 quarters, I need to change. We can swap the money. The value is still the same. They still got $1, I still got $1, but we both exchange something, and it was a change for both of us. So every time I walk out that door, I inspire to help change lives just as much as lives have changed me.
Y'all been listening to the wrong people, watching the wrong things all your life, and it's time to put to rest all those negative thoughts because you are enough. It's time to put to rest that self-doubt because you are enough. It is time to get rid of that negative energy because you are enough. It is time to stop listening to people that don't have the best interests of you in your life because you are enough. So let's have a moment of silence. I want everybody to understand that you are the person that's in charge of your life. Everything that you have inside of you to be who you're supposed to be in life. You have a destiny, and that destiny can only be accomplished through you, by you, and only you with the help of God. When you realize that you are the person you are, because you're not a carbon copy, there's only one you. They try to put you in a box. Society tries to put you in a box, but you can't be in a box. How can you be in a box when there's only one you? But then they tell you, think outside the box. What I'm trying to get you to understand is there is no box.
I want to pass on the things that I have to the generations behind me. By the time it's time for me to get called home and go to the grave, I want to be empty. I believe in bankrupting the cemetery, so I can't take this knowledge with me because the cemetery is already full of brilliant ideas and unwritten books and innovative ideas. I can't take this with me, so I'm trying to leave it all here as Billy Graham Jr. to the next generation so somebody else can carry it on.